Jon Kilmer, welcome to the Limitless Pod. I appreciate you coming on, man.
Oh, dude, thanks for having me, man. It's an honor, and appreciate you thinking of me, and I'm happy to be here.
I have to start this conversation with something I heard you say a while back
hmm
now, and it is that you claim to be the original frat rapper.
No, I invented frat rap.
You invented it. Okay.
It's the cross I bear. It's just the way things went, and I have proof too, sort of. I sort of have
What year was
proof.
this?
This was all right. I was in college. I graduated in 2010, getting up there, and right around that time. I mean, and granted, I was in a fraternity. I was in the Sigma Alpha Epsilon SAE, Phi Alpha, shout out. And
Shout
during
out.
that time, I was the guy in my fraternity house every year that had the recording equipment and had like the studio gear, either in the fraternity house or in the dorm room. And this was during a time when it wasn't popular to have studio equipment back then because it wasn't as accessible because I'm old and it's just the technology was like barely there. It was like just starting. It was just starting to like be common to have a home studio. So I had all the gear in my fraternity house junior year, senior year. And before I worked with artists, I was making some tunes of my own. And the songs that I were making were kind of like parody songs, kind of like Lonely Island, kind of parodying other stuff. Had a big hit in '09. It was a parody of the song I'm on a Boat by Lonely Island, funny enough. I don't know if you remember that one with
Oh
T-Pain,
yeah.
that little nugget. 3 days after I'm on a Boat came out, Jon Kilmer came out with I'm in a Frat. And that song took off in the fraternity community. It just like it bounced around YouTube like a beach ball at a Nickelback concert. It was just the hit of the summer. I was going to like other schools and they were like, "Wait, you're the I'm in a frat dude?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's me." And I was a minor celebrity for a couple months there. And then, you know, go figure. Right after that, Sammy Adams, I Hate College comes out, starts smashing the internet. Mac Miller comes out, starts smashing the internet. Did I lead the way? Did I walk so those artists could run? Did I walk so artists like Mike Stud could run? I'd like to think so. So I think that can answer your question a little bit.
Someone's got to pave the way, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Why did you decide to make that song? What was
Because
what was it?
I was in fact in a frat, and it felt. And since then, it's been taken off the internet. So if you're listening to this and you're searching on YouTube, it's not there. It ended up getting so popular that my nationals of my fraternity saw it, and it was kind of like poking fun at fraternities. Like it was the whole joke was like making fun. It was a joke within itself. And I was wearing my letters in the video, and my nationals saw it. And like mind you, this is the biggest fraternity member wise in the entire country. This is a massive fraternity. It goes back to the 1800s. They did not like it, and they saw it, and it got taken down effective immediately. So it was a short stint for me in the frat rap community, but I paved the way, and I went on to produce many of those artists, and here I am today, still doing the same thing.
Left your mark on the industry, that's for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Then how'd you start working with some of those other guys? I know Chris Webby was an early one. Sam Adams, I believe, as well.
Well,
Just how did you start?
Chris Webby was my entrance into the music world, I guess, as a producer. When as I mentioned before, when I was having the studio equipment in my fraternity house, junior year was the first year I was in the fraternity house, and I was in the basement. That was just like the shittiest basement you've ever seen. But I had an extra room down there, and I decided to make a studio out of the spare room in the basement of the fraternity house. And I was just down there, making hits such as, I'm in a frat. And I was just having fun making music, just fucking around. And this new guy pledges our fraternity named Chris Webby, and he's like this rapper that's famous on MySpace. That's how old we are. He was just crushing it on MySpace as a rapper, an internet rapper. And he linked with me because he knew I had studio gear in the basement, and one thing led to another, and I started recording all of his songs. I just kind of just because of the position I was in, his room, he moved into the fraternity house, his room was upstairs, and we just linked up immediately, started recording. I recorded a bunch of his music. I started producing a few of the beats, and he's over those next 2 years of us in college together, he started to grow as an artist more and more. So by the time I graduated, I kind of already had like some work under my belt. I was working with Webby, and then by senior year, I started working with a few other artists that started to become a little well known in like the blog era and all that. And and then yeah, man, the rest is history. Then I had a little bit of a track record, I guess you could say, where I could reach out to other artists, and I wasn't just a nobody. I was, I worked with Chris Webby, I worked with some of these other guys, and it kind of all took off from there.
Yeah, Chris Webby, what a name. I remember bumping him back in high school. So I
Yeah,
graduated
he's
high school in
dude.
like
Chris is
2011.
still doing it. One of the nicest guys out there. He's been doing it independently and has a diehard fan base, and has been consistently just been delivering year after year, and just an absolutely hard worker and great kid.
Yeah, true lyricist. The
Mm-hmm.
stuff he comes up with, insane. I was
Mm-hmm.
always a big fan. But then why did you have that production equipment? You like you said, it's very rare to come by at that point in time. And so
It
why
was
did
the
you have it?
curiosity, man. I'm so thankful to have found my true passions at a young age. I was messing around with music and with video and film since I was 13 or 14 years old, and it all kind of just started as curiosity. I was forced to do piano lessons as like a 9-year old, and I fucking hated it. But then when I was 14, I learned I picked up a guitar and I loved it. So uh, I fell in love with music very early on, and then I got my first video camera when I was probably 13 years old. And again, it just started with me and my friends, like, when you watch the show Jackass, and there's that message that said, "Don't try this at home. These are professionals." Well, in 8th grade, we were trying it at home, and I was the camera guy, and that's how I got my start. So I have those tapes somewhere, but we were jumping off my roof, my parents' roof, or like rolling down our driveway, like in a trash barrel, and lighting stuff on fire. That's how it just started, as pure, like unadulterated fun, just like being young and doing it for no other reason than just because it's fun. And that's how a lot of those things started. So by the time I got to college, I had already started kind of messing around with recording myself, and it was just a fun activity for me without any really plan of what it would lead to. And when I was in college, it was still just the same thing. I was like rapping for fun. I was just putting little things on YouTube and making little parody videos, like I said. Um, I think I wrote a love song to Megan Fox at one point, which still waiting to hear back. And
Must have got lost in the mail.
yeah, exactly. So again, it was just for fun. I wasn't really thinking of making a career out of it. I just enjoyed doing it. And by the time I was a senior in college, I was realizing that I could become a valuable asset to artists rather than being, the quote unquote frat star. I could be of service to other artists by recording them, making instrumental, shooting music videos, because I had all the skill sets, because it was just passions of mine since I was a young kid. So it started as a passion, and then it kind of moved on more and more as kind of my purpose, and being of service to these people that I, ended up becoming great friends of mine, and collaborators and artists and all that.
Then what is it about rap that took you into that avenue out of all genres?
I know, that's
Uh,
great. I think that was just divine timing, really. I was always a rock guy. I had an afro in high school. I played in jazz band. I was lead guitar. Just
all right.
we covered a lot of classic rock tunes. Fun fact: one of Steven Tyler of Aerosmith's daughter went to my high school, and she was a year below me. So whenever we had our like biannual performances, I knew Steven Tyler was going to be there. So my claim to fame is, in high school, I performed for Steven Tyler a handful of times. He said I was good. He said I had what it took, and that was a fun time. But um, it's funny. I got into hip hop like way later in life, probably, man, probably like 15, 16 years old. Like I really didn't listen to it at all until I was visiting my friend, one of my best friends, who was going to school in the Bay Area. Probably when I was, you know what? This was like later. This was later when I was in college. In high school, I was like vaguely getting into 50 Cent. He was the first rapper I fell in love with. I mean, 50 was just, he was smooth as hell, man. He had all the melodies, and
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Get
he was
Rich
the
or Die
best.
Trying is my number one
Dude,
album.
that album, man, I mean, that opened my eyes. But then once I got into college and I was like 18, 19 years old, my friend was going to school in the Bay Area. And then I visited him and found out about all the Bay Area rap, and all the E40s and the Mac Dre's and all that. And I was like, damn, like this music's like there's a whole different animal out here. Like it's fun. It's like you can dance to it. I was going to like they had like these dance parties at his school and they were just playing all like Bay Area music and stuff like that. And I was like, damn, like people are like dancing, getting down to this. Like this is like, this is some fun ass music. So then once I got the experience of like the East Coast rap and like the Bay Area stuff, I was like, I kind of really just fell in love with it. I started making beats of my own. I wouldn't rap for fun. I was just kind of making like joke songs and funny songs that my friends could listen to and laugh at. And that passion is what kind of led into that genre and why I started working with, certain hip hop artists or rap artists.
And you taught yourself everything basically, the
Yeah,
producing and making beats and all
yeah,
that stuff.
I'm like mildly classically trained because, like I said, I played piano growing up, and I had like a very strict piano teacher for a few years there. And then when I picked up guitar, I had a few lessons, but most self taught. And then on the production side of things, that was all very much self taught. Just downloading the software and like anyone, it starts with GarageBand and you just kind of mess around with it, and then you move on to things like Logic and Pro Tools, and then you get better at that. So yeah, it's just a lot of messing around, and it's at this point I can't even. It's been like probably like 17 or 18 years of just messing around on that stuff and still learning every day.
Damn. I gotta hop back to the Steven Tyler story real quick.
Yeah.
First of all, what was your best song up there that you played for him, where you just
Man,
really felt like you're feeling it up there?
man, that was a half a lifetime ago. I want to say one thing I was super nervous about is when I had to play the intro to Stairway to Heaven. And that's a very long guitar intro, and it's not necessarily super challenging, but if you're like a 17-year-old, it's pretty difficult. And it's definitely like a few minutes of just like a guitarist up there playing with the rest of the band just waiting for the song to kick in. And I remember shitting bricks for that. And I didn't play it perfectly, but I definitely did my thing on that one. And
Yeah,
I definitely loved playing that one.
love it, love it.
Yeah.
Then why'd you get into, or why'd your parents put you into music at a young age? Were they musicians or?
No, not even. I don't know. Honestly, I never actually asked them. I got an older brother that's like 6 years ahead of me, and he did the piano lesson thing. And yeah, he didn't, go on to do anything musical career wise. But I couldn't tell you why they did it. It's interesting. I don't think the piano is what really made me get into music per se, like in the long run. It definitely helped when I picked up the guitar and I had the musical background. But as far as really falling in love with it all, it was kind of probably when I picked the guitar up at like 14 years old and just really fell in love with all the classic rock. And AC/DC was probably one of my more favorite bands back then. Just seeing I fell in love with rock culture too, the rock star culture. Even to this day, all the books I read are rock star autobiographies. I'm fully immersed in the rock star culture, and I love reading about it, and a lot of insightful stories from some of those guys.
What's the craziest and most insightful story that comes to mind?
Oh, geez, where do I even start? There's some fun ones and then some insightful ones. Let's go with the fun ones.
Yeah.
Uh, if we're sticking with Steven Tyler, I read his book, fantastic. And Steven Tyler has this story about being in a recording studio, and the guys at the recording studio, the engineers, they had this story about how when Jimi Hendrix recorded there, he actually stuck a microphone into a girl's pussy and recorded. And the engineers at the studio still had the recording to that day, and they played it for Steven Tyler. I thought that was just insane to have that type of like rock history there, where like Steven Tyler's a piece of rock history, but then the man before him, Jimi Hendrix, like the god of guitar, was there even before him and was just expanding his legacy in that studio in between a girl's legs. But then there's even better stories. One of my favorite books is The Dirt by Motley Crue. It's a famous rock autobiography. And there's just a wild story. Basically, the whole book is a lesson on not to do heroin. You just shouldn't do heroin. It just doesn't lead to anything good. Well, the bassist of Motley Crue, Nikki Sixx, was just a diehard heroin addict. Like would do $1,000 of heroin a day at one point when they were like really popping off. And there was a point when Nikki Sixx was doing so much heroin that he pretty much killed himself. He was in a bathroom and he did so much heroin that he died. And someone called an ambulance. I believe Slash was there that day, coincidentally, the day he overdosed. He overdosed. It wasn't in a bathroom. He was like at some like burnout's house, some drug dealer's house. I think Slash was there, and Nikki Sixx took so much heroin that he died. Someone called an ambulance, and in the ambulance they shoved a adrenaline needle in his heart and brought him back to life. And that's where the song "Kickstart My Heart" comes from, because it's a song about him literally overdosing on heroin and getting brought back to life in that ambulance. And then when he gets to the hospital, he finally wakes up in the hospital after like dying, coming back alive. And when he wakes up in the hospital, he checks himself out and he goes into the parking lot where some fans discover him. And he asks the fans to take him back home, where he then goes back home and does more heroin after he checks himself out from dying of heroin. So I thought that was a nice little lesson there to just, whatever vices you have, maybe just take it easy, do it in stride, take it in stride.
Holy shit. Gotta respect the commitment to the game, though.
Yeah. Needless to say, he's sober today.
Oh, man.
Yeah, he's sober.
Yeah. That commitment, though, just like, yep, I'm getting out of the hospital. I need some more. I need some more of this. What brought me in here?
I think that I know I'm saying like a lot of like crazy stories, but I think the underlying message of a lot of these and a lot of these rock star autobiographies, what you really learn from it is that these guys have just like lived the craziest lifestyles, have put themselves mentally and physically through the ringer. And all they can say from looking back at it all is a lot of them say like, I had to go through that craziness in order to realize that's not the lifestyle that I want to live. Some of them had to even die and come back to life to realize like, this isn't the life I wanted to live. But I needed to go through that craziness to realize that I have to go out the other side, see the light at the end of the tunnel, and live like a much different life, a more sustainable life. So I think there's some giant lessons there for people who like really push it to the edge. And in a way, like we kind of did that in our own way for like a decade. And, it's especially like with Mike and I and a few of the other guys, we treated our bodies like shit for probably 10 plus years, and we came out the other side and realized like that's not really the life we want to live anymore. And we're a lot better for it today, and it was a big learning lesson at the end of the day.
Yeah, definitely want to touch on your guys' story and just journey over those years and the transformation that you guys are in the midst of, and have started a couple years ago but still continuing.
Mm-hmm.
But I love that you pointed that out, just like the underlying story, because everybody looks at Motley Crue or any rock star and say, wow, I wish I had his life. Like what they're going through is awesome.
Yeah.
And there's some truth to that. Like I'm sure the Motley Crue guys had a lot of fun while they were doing it, but they're also paid a pretty big price for it. And so
yeah,
it's that balance of you don't know anybody's full story, as great as somebody's story looks, and however much fame you think somebody has and how cool that is, there's usually another side of that coin.
You're 100% right. Totally. And like, man, we could get into this for days, but I look back at those wild years we had, probably from like 2011 up until like 2019. Honestly, it was like good 8 years where we were just pedal to the metal, like going on tour, drinking 20 drinks a night, staying up all night, eating like shit, not sleeping, partying. I mean, we in the early years we probably drank with every single damn near fan that came to our shows. We'd go out with them, and we'd if we had a 300 person show, like 300 people would come out to the bars with us, and we'd just all drink together. That's how we kind of started out. Our grassroots fan base was just getting drunk with everyone. And that was fun for a while. But like, honestly, if I didn't journal and I didn't really like take videos of those times, I would look back and probably not remember any of it and have nothing to really show for it other than, like a couple of good stories. We had some good times, and grew a fucking one of the best fan bases that, anyone's ever had ever. But it's, you don't really have much like substance to show for just partying all those years if you can't really even really remember a lot of it. So now, if you were to ask Mike or ask me, one of the things we love now about touring is we can go into it with a clear mind and look out in the crowd and say like just really like live in the moment and say like, wow, like these people, like we built this, these people are here to support us. This is a beautiful thing. And we can have kind of a different moment rather than just getting as fucking shit faced as possible and just being wild. So it's nice to have that contrast now and to have a different outlook on it all.
Yeah, nothing brings people together like a few drunken nights. That's for damn sure.
A few. Yeah.
Then I do agree that I think you guys have like cultivated this incredible fan base community that is, as ride or die as it gets. Was that an intentional thing of like we're gonna go out and party because we know it's gonna grow and connect with people, or is it just like
No,
we're gonna go out and
no.
party?
We just wanted to get fucked up, dude. There was no science behind it. I mean, when we were starting out, we were 23 years old, like we were 23. Like, what do 23-year-olds want to do? If you give a 23-year-old like a little bit of attention, a little bit of a good time, like yeah, that like those guys. And Mike and I were similar starting out because I mean, he had like the athlete background and he was on sports teams. Yeah, he's played baseball for Duke, so he had that male camaraderie going on. And as mentioned before, I had the fraternity thing going on, and uh, that was just the type of guys we were. Like we weren't trying to be anyone but ourselves. And we look back at it, we cringe, we were douchebags. It's fun. That's that's just the type of
That's
guys we were. We liked having a good time, and we weren't thinking long term, like, oh, how can we cultivate a grassroots fan base? We were just like, where's the fucking bar? Like, who's gonna have us? What bar are we going to after this? Like, who's coming? That was it.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I mean, you guys basically lived another 8 years of college, essentially. Just going out, going
And
out partying, and
I even went on to make an independent film about this feature film where it was semi autobiographical, but I made a feature film back in 2018. And the premise of it was about a kid who found out he was a legacy to like the secret party society. And the whole premise was like, you got to basically live 4 more years of college at like this like animal house with like other postgraduates. And like you basically pose like you're in college, so you get to just do it all over again for another 4 years. Because that's how I felt. Like I literally felt like I was just like the party continues, and like I'm getting paid to do this. Like this is my career. Like this is fucking nuts, And I mean, I'll speak for myself, but I fully took advantage of it. Of like, we're gonna party for 8 years. Great, let's do it. Like I'm hopping on the railroad tracks, and I'm just gonna keep riding this rickety train until it falls off the tracks.
yeah, living the frat bro dream.
Yep. Oh yeah.
But what's also great about it is now, again, like I said, you guys are in this, transition, or however you really want to call it, but in a much more different wavelength than you guys were previously over the past couple of years. And so people like myself, who have been, I saw College Humor when it came out, and like
Yeah,
been a fan
crazy.
since then.
Mhm.
And so like to see you guys evolve and like to evolve with myself, like that just brings that fan base and community closer with you guys, and it's able to resonate and feel real because it is real. When we can see that it's real because we've seen the progression over the years, and it's something that's truly special. And it's like I said, a community that's more ride or die than most fan bases that I can think of.
Man, it's been wild also to see the fan base kind of grow with us, especially so like people like yourself and a lot of others that have been kind of riding with us for 10 years now. It's wild to see that. It's wild to see it, like hear the stories like, oh, like I used to rock with you guys in high school and now I'm 26 and have a family and a kid. Like being around that long, at times it's, kind of tough because it reminds you how old you are, but then it's also beautiful because it's like, these people have been a part of our lives for 10 years and we've grown up with them. And that's what makes it even more special because we've been so transparent with who we are as people, whether we were partying back in the old days and having a wild time putting up these touring scoring videos or getting or growing up and kind of becoming more mindful and putting out these podcasts, the YNK podcasts. Like people have seen the progression and they've gone through their own progressions and we've been able to relate with our fans that way. And I think that's what really sets us apart from a lot of other artists is we've been around a long time, we've done it independently, and we've grown with our fans, which is truly special.
Yeah, I think with like even the touring is boring and everything. I again, I think you're really one of the first kind of groups that I can think of. I mean, Mike is the first guy I can think of that's really like documented the whole journey as much as you
Yeah,
guys
to be
have.
fair, Wiz Khalifa was doing it a lot too when
Okay.
we were doing it. So, but besides Wiz and us, I mean, Wiz was obviously a much bigger artist back then. That he was like 10 times bigger than Mike was back then. But besides Mike, he was the only other artist that was doing like tour vlogs back then. Like we were kind of like YouTubers before YouTubers were even a thing. Like this was like 2011, 2012. We're doing vlogs, and like vlogs weren't very popular that long ago. And in a way, that's kind of like, we were kind of content guys before that was even like like fashionable, I guess.
Yeah, and so where did that come from? That idea of just starting recording everything? I know you said you had your
That yeah, that dude,
past.
that's just divine timing, man. Like I reached out to Mike 2011. All he had was College Humor and maybe In This Life. He had those two songs out. I saw him on a music blog. I shot him an email. I wasn't even making music videos really. I probably made like 3 music videos at that point. But I was working with a lot of artists. I'd worked with like Webby and a few other guys that were sort of well known in that circle. And he checked out some of my beats and he made his third song over one of them. And then after that, I was like, hey man, like just I do some music videos. I dabble. If you want to come to New York City, so that's where I was living at the time. Like, shoot the video for it too. Let's just do the whole thing. So that's when I met him for the first time. He shot down from Rhode Island down to New York City. We shot the music video for his third song ever, and then shortly after that, like months after that, he started getting booked for his first couple shows. And like I had shot some videos with him at that point, and I was kind of the clear choice to come shoot some of the show. And he wasn't a headliner; he was opening, for some of these shows. And he was getting a little buzz on the internet, so he had a little bit of a fan base. So like songs like College Humor was, pretty known at these concerts that he was opening up for. But I was the clear choice to go film some of these first shows. And it's funny because some of these first shows, I looked back and like, he's been friends with like Marcus Stroman forever. And like Marcus is at some of these first shows in like 2011. Like Marcus is like the hype man on stage, like whipping a towel around. And it's just like these like beautiful videos from these early days. But to answer your first question about how it all started, it's that's kind of how I started filming Mike's shows. And then once he got popular enough to do some of his headlining shows, I had done some of these opening shows filming for him. And again, I was kind of the clear choice to go on the road with him and shoot some of the shows. And me just being the guy I am, I'm a clown. I like having a good time. I like, I can't just be a quiet guy behind a camera. Like I'm a piece of the party, but I'm holding a camera, So it's, I was partaking in the party, but at the same time, I was just documenting what was happening, man. Like I was, the guys were partying. We had no idea what we were doing. We were touring for the first time. We didn't know how to run the business. We had no record label. We were just 23-year-old guys just trying to figure it out. Our DJ was our tour manager, and he had never toured before, and we were just trying to figure out like how to do it, how to show up to venues, set up, do the show, get paid, and then get in the van and then drive ourselves to the next one while being completely hungover. There were times when these were before the tour bus days. We had to stay in like shitty hotel rooms where like you'd wake up the next day and our tour manager like didn't know where everyone was. Like you had to like track down like who was where. Like someone's like across town at the sorority house, someone's at like this different hotel, someone's in like the next town. And like the next days would just be like collecting everybody so we could get to the next show. And like it's and I was just there to document it all, man. And like that's how we started doing the web series. And we didn't take ourselves seriously because we weren't really taking the job that seriously because we didn't know what we were doing. And that's kind of what brought like the charm of the whole web series of like, these are just a group of friends that are like really don't know what they're doing, just giving it their best shot and just like having a good time in the process.
Yeah, I love that. What a great story.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then another, just like you said, divine intervention. If you think about all the different, in the half hour that we've talked so far, just all the different times that you've mentioned that or that has come up, just divine intervention of kind of right place, right time,
Mm-hmm.
whether it was starting out with the piano, then just happened to be in the frat house that Chris Webby goes into, and that
all
frat
things out
rap
of my
comes out.
control. A lot of those things out of my control. And some like you'd ask me like, well, why'd you send Mike an email? Like I have no idea. Saw him on a blog and I had a hunch that he and I would get along, and I thought he was cool, so I shot him an email. Like I didn't have some grand plan like, oh, I'm going to shoot him an email and become his videographer and then tour with him and then create a 10-year legacy with him. No, I didn't think about any of that. I was just like, oh, he seems cool. He parties. Like I party. He parties. Let's figure it. Let's do some stuff together. Yeah.
That's beautiful. It's beautiful though how it happens like that.
Yeah.
because it's just natural. It's not you're not trying to do anything. You're just doing what's natural to you, and of course it works out because you're just going with the flow of life.
Yeah, dude. And like, one thing that I will give I will give myself credit for that I've been proud of myself for is as kind of going with the flow of just the universe and like what it has to offer me. And I've never been one to really force anything. Um, it's funny that, later on we've gone to have that tag phrase, you never know, because like I've literally lived by that without even really knowing it from a young age. It's like I do things that I'm passionate about that I have fun doing, and I don't really think about the outcome. I just know that if I do it and I do it from the heart and I do it honestly and like I do it lead with a good intention, and I do what I love and I work with the people that I love and I add value to them and I'm of service to those people, like the universe is going to provide. Like there's no point in forcing it. Like I didn't choose for Chris Webby to move upstairs for me, and if he didn't move upstairs for me, like I don't know, I might be in a different career path now. But the universe was like, here's this Connecticut-based rapper that's going to pledge your fraternity and live above you, and he's going to ask to work with you, and that's going to be your first person you ever work with, and that's going to lead to the next thing, and that's going to lead to the next thing. Um, and it's been that way to this day. Like it's happened, dude, it's happened time and time again in the past 10, 12 years. It's things like could have never imagined could happen. Like podcasting, for example. Like I didn't even know podcasts existed in 2011 when I started out of college. Like I didn't even know what a podcast was. And then by the time it's, 2018, 2019, when Mike wants to start a podcast, well, guess what? Like I can now be an audio engineer. I know how to record audio, edit audio, shoot video, edit video, even beyond the show. And these are things that I'm like 10 years deep into learning these things. And I didn't even know what podcasts were, but once podcasts were presented to me, I end up being an amazing podcast producer, probably better than anyone because I have all these skill sets that I've been stacking over the years that I had no idea that it was going to add up to being a podcast producer. But that's just what the universe presented to me. It's like Mike wanted to do a podcast, like great, I can produce the whole thing by myself. I can even be on it with you if you want, because it's just not it's not something that's difficult to me, and you don't have to hire 3 to 5 guys to produce a whole show. I can do it all for you. And I live in your house. So it's just all these, again, like divine timing and just letting the universe provide and present these things to me along the way. And I have like 100 examples like that. It's not just the podcast. There's like 100 things that have happened like that.
But how do you find the balance between going with the flow and forcing it? Sometimes you do have to maybe force a little bit to get what you want, but not force too much to get something that's not right for you.
Yeah, listen, like there are some people that are go-getters and that will like network their asses off and like that they'll go the extra mile. And I'm not really one of those guys. I'm like a do it if it feels right and go with the flow. And like I'm not saying one way is better than the other. I'm just saying like for the people that are anxious, especially like in today's day and age, the young kids are very impatient and like they're just like, I want results now, and it's if you just do what you love and you're a good person and you can bring value to people's lives, like you're gonna succeed. Like it's just inevitable. It take a year, it might take 5 years, it might take 10 years. Well, like something's gonna come along where you didn't even know existed, and because you've been doing what you love and getting better at your craft and being of service to people and being a good person, it's gonna come along. It really is. Like I don't know. Like I'm living proof. Like I've never forced anything really. Like yeah, I sent Mike an email, but it's I don't know. It's hard to explain really, but it's I know it sounds crazy to just say be a good person and try hard and good things will happen, but it's kind of that simple.
Yeah, I like to think the world is just a mirror of who you are.
Mhm.
And like if you're a good person and do good things for others and like you said, provide value, be of service to others, then it's gonna come back to you. It's just the way of the world, the way of the universe that if the universe is perfect as is, like nature and everything is perfect as is, then it is going to reflect what is given to it. So if it is given good energy, you'll get good energy back.
Mhm. 100%. And if you're in it for the right reasons too. Like I was never in it to be rich. Like I didn't graduate college and thought like, oh, I'm gonna do this to get rich and famous and like whatever. Like I obviously I had to like make my rent every month. Like I graduated college and I just wanted to start working for myself immediately, and that created a great challenge. And at first it was kind of about the money because it's like, well, I have to make X amount of dollars to like survive and live. And that was nice to kind of and especially being in New York City, it was nice to kind of have that energy of that city and like that goal of just like I got to make this amount of money. It's just kind of my back's against the wall and I'm going to try as hard as I can. Um, but besides that, yeah, I mean, dude, I was just going with the flow and I was collaborating with whoever was willing to work with me. And I made a lot of great friendships along the way. And some of those friendships, like, they're still here to this day. And not just Mike, but several other people and some people I consider some of my like family even. And I'm still doing business with to this day.
And so what'd you do in those early days or, right out of college to make sure you're getting enough money? Were there days, months that you're like, I don't know if I'm gonna get it?
Yeah, for sure, dude. And like, you know what? I'm super grateful to have family that's so supportive. Family that like has never been in the creative field, like pretty much knew like of nothing of what I was doing, but couldn't have been more supportive. And like that first year, like were there months where I was like, guys, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to cover rent this month. And like for sure they fucking helped me out. And like I know not everyone has that, and I'm beyond grateful for that. And even if I didn't, I would have found a way, obviously. Even if I had to become, New York City's greatest man gigolo, I would have done it. I would have, I would have gone to those rich ladies and showed them the night of their lives if it meant I could just keep pursuing my dream. But gratefully, I didn't have to prostitute. My parents would help me out from time to time. But just to say, I would have done it. And
You would have had some tough competition, I'm sure, in New York City.
I was young and sprightly back then. I could have been really good man whore, but um, but anyways, it really forced me to collaborate a lot, and that's why I was reaching out to a lot of artists back then because one, I could provide a lot of value, but also um, it's hard to find like minded people that are like exactly your tribe and like and have the same outlook as you. And I think a testament to me back then was I worked with anyone who was willing to work with me, and I ended up working with probably 200-300 artists over the span of a few years. And out of those 200-300 people, there was really only like 3 or 4 artists I really vibed with that I continued to work with that like really took it seriously and went for the long run and went on to have 10+ years of music career. Um, and it's hard to find those people that are dedicated. I recently talked to a dude the other day, young artist, 23 years old, just out of college, and you're just looking for some guidance. And he was kind of struggling finding people that were like equally as dedicated as him to pursue music. And I told him, I'm like, dude, you're gonna have to work with like 100 different guys before you find one that like really vibes with you and really has the same outlook as you and has the same work ethic as you. That's gonna build with you over the course of 10 years. You don't just find people like that, in a day. You have to like really get out there and look. So, I mean, that's always been my biggest advice for people starting out is, collaborate as much as you can and find those people that you want to build with that are willing to build with you.
It's all about reps, right? Like you just have to
Yeah.
put in an absurd amount of reps. You
And
think
some
you're gonna
some
have
people
to
get
do
some people get lucky. Some people are like, "Oh, this was my neighbor, and we started a band, and then we played music for 30 years." Like that happens sometimes, and that's like the ultimate divine timing. But most people, you got to get out in those streets, and you got to actually like meet a lot of people, as many people as you can.
yeah, it's just law of averages. Like if you want to find somebody that is above average, that is, top of the class per se, if you want to call it that, at whatever skill that you're looking for, then yeah, you're gonna have to go through a couple hundred people to find that person most likely. But you just got to be willing to eat dirt for a little bit and just
Mhm.
say that I'm gonna stick it out as long as it takes. It might, like you said, it might take a day for some people. Some really lucky people, it might take 10 years for some people. But if you just keep going, eventually you'll figure it out. You'll find somebody.
Dude, I got so lucky in the beginning, and I call it luck, but again, I think it was just kind of all conspiring for me. But like, I like this is when music video cameras like started to become DSLRs and like the photography cameras shot video. I believe like the Canon 7D was like like the one of the big first ones, the popular ones. And I remember like I bought a Canon 7D my senior year in college because I was taking a photography class and like I just really loved taking photos and I kind of fell in love with the whole process of photography, not even knowing that that was the camera that could like shoot video and like look really high quality for like a low cost and went on to be like a very popular music video camera back in those early 2010s. And when I clicked for me, I was like, I remember Mac Miller's videos were coming out, and I was like, man, these videos look fresh as fuck. Like they're like super low budget, but they look super clean and like they're super like gritty and authentic and cool looking. And I was always wondering what they shot on. Meanwhile, I had the fucking camera, and I didn't even realize that it was the same camera. So when that clicked for me, like a year later, I was like, oh fuck, I'm shooting the same camera that like that Mac Miller's videographer's using. Like that's sick. I'm gonna shoot similar videos as Mac Miller's because like I got the same camera. And again, this is like when it wasn't. This is before your phone was shooting 4K. This is like no one had video cameras back then. This was like brand new technology. This whole style of video. And when that clicked for me, I was like, shit, I'm just gonna start shooting videos in the vein of Mac Miller videos. They're gonna like have this like similar looks. And then I went on to be like this besides Mac Miller's guy, like I was like the other music video director in that bubble, in that circle that like went on to shoot videos for everybody. Like I was once that clicked, I was getting I you know I was getting paid like 500 $700 a video, but I was doing them all the time. I was getting flown out to like this college or this place or this just to go shoot like this low budget little video. And again, just kind of divine timing of having this camera I didn't even know was like the music video camera of the time that really not many people had. But when it clicked for me, it's like, wow, like I had this camera for a photography class and now I'm shooting like, you know, like 5 music videos a month for kids all over the country. And it's just weird how things kind of work out.
Then when shooting videos, like, what is your kind of creative process? Like, how do you come up with ideas of like what you're going to shoot for music videos?
Well, back then it was just copy Mac Miller's videos.
Easy
I'll be
enough.
I'll be the first to say it. I mean, his videos were so sick, and it was just like him and his buddies just like walking down a path, rapping the lyrics, and like
Yeah,
couple slow
kids.
motion, yeah, a couple slow motion shots of them like goofing around and having fun. And I'm like, everyone wanted videos like that, like, and I was like, well, I can shoot videos like that. I got the same camera, and then you know, it became a lot of emulation in those early days of just like just kind of like doing what works and just kind of piggybacking off that look. And I did that for a while, and then I, you know, the artistry started to come out, and I started to make a little more like intricate videos and ones with storylines and stuff like that. And then it was fun to collaborate with artists and actually like bring out the real artistry of it, come up with cool ideas and concepts, and you know, portray a real emotion that the song's portraying, and bring it to a visual. And like that's when it became really fun. And it's wild too because I mean, music videos were very relevant back then. On like YouTube was pretty much the platform to discover music. You know, people weren't discovering music on iTunes; they were going on YouTube. So there was never a better time to have a videographer because cell phones couldn't really shoot good video quality back then. And you just needed a video guy if you wanted to get the content to put on YouTube to get discovered. So I was very much like a necessary asset back then, and I brought a lot of value to a lot of people by shooting all that content back then. And nowadays, you know, I had to adjust the past 4 or 5 years because like it's just not as necessary anymore. You know, cell phones shoot really good videos now, and you have stuff like TikTok and and Instagram Reels and all these algorithmic things where you don't even need YouTube anymore per se. You don't need music videos anymore. So it's been just like a constant state of reassessing and adjusting and evolving. And especially as a creator, I've had some tough years and figuring out like, you know, what I should be doing. But again, just like been patient, letting the universe kind of letting me know where to go next and all that.
Then what is it about music for you that you love so much? Like, why have you dedicated, you know, I mean, your whole life to it basically since 6 years old?
Well, for starters, everything. Love everything about it. I told you, like dude, my idols when I was 15 years old were guys that smoked crack and shot heroin and partied all the time, and just like had sex with so many women when I was 15.
I want to be that guy.
And well, I recently posted a video of this on my Instagram when I was doing an interview recently, and I came to this realization to like maybe 3-4 years ago that a lot of my 20s I was fulfilling this fantasy I had as that 15-year-old kid who wanted to be the rock star and not take heroin, but like party and be beloved by a lot of people and party and you know have the validation of being accepted by all these women and all these girls. And I rode that train for a long time, a very long time. And but once I started rolling into my 30s, I was like reassessing, and I'm like, like I'm just fulfilling this fantasy I had as this kid, and like that's not really like what I want as like today, like right now. Today's Jon Kilmer, like I'm in my mid 30s. I don't want to be like fulfilling some fantasy I had as a 16-year-old. I want to focus on what I want now. Like what does Jon Kilmer want now as a 35-year-old? And since I've been doing that, it's like it's just been really changing my priorities and my day to day and what I put my energy towards and all that. So in those early years, it was to fulfill what that 15-year-old wanted, and now it's about fulfilling what today me wants.
Mm. Is there any is there one or two songs that you have that are just like, man, these are songs are perfect, like all inspiring?
Any song ever?
Yeah, just any like your go-to songs that you think they're just like the best songs.
Yeah, I think one of the greatest songs ever made is "Take It Easy" by the Eagles. You ever hear that?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Did you know that song's about banging groupies?
I did not know that.
I said that because I really listen to the lyrics, and I said that to my buddy. He was playing in the car on the way to the gym, and I told him that. I'm like, the song's about banging groupies and just wanting to have sex with as many women as possible. He's like, what? He's like, that song? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, listen to the words, man. Like, listen. Like, you want me to read you some of the lyrics?
Yeah, please.
All right. Because when you listen to the song, it's just like this feel good song,
nice.
and you just think it's like, oh, it's the 70s. Like, we're just chilling, we're having a good time. No, man. Like, they're singing about banging chicks. First line of the fucking song. I'm running down the road trying to loosen my load. I've got 7 women on my mind. He's trying to loosen his load because he has 7 women on his mind. That's how the song starts. So right away, we're off to the races. This guy's
coming
horny.
out hot.
This guy's so horny. And then you go down a little further. Let's see. Verse 2. I'm standing on a corner in Winslow, Arizona, and such a fine sight to see. It's a girl, my lord, in a flatbed Ford slowing down to take a look at me. Another girl that he sees. And he says, come on, baby, don't say maybe. I got to know if your sweet love is going to save me. So now this second verse, he's trying to convince this girl in the flatbed Ford in Winslow, Arizona, come on, let's have sex. Let's have some sex.
Doesn't waste any time.
He said, we may lose and we may win, but we will never be here again. So open up by climbing in. Take it easy. That's about sex. The whole song is about sex.
That's
I think there's even more. He said, I'm running down the road trying to loosen my load, got a world of trouble on my mind, looking for a lover who won't blow my cover. She's so hard to find. Let's break that down for a second. Looking for a lover who won't blow my cover. So what I think here, he's got a world of trouble on his mind. I think he's got like a wife or a girlfriend back home. Yeah. But he's on the road. He wants to find a low-key groupie to just like bang it out and be quiet about it. And not blow his cover. This whole song is just riddled with just like horny antics. I want to know if your sweet love's going to stay. Like, dude, the whole song is just about being on the road and having sex with women. And you listen to it.
That's why it's perfect?
I like it because people were subtle back then. That's the artistry of it. You're like, I'm going to make a feel-good song. But if you really look at the subtext, it's about banging girls. But if you just listen to it at the surface level, it's just a beautiful fucking well-written song that's catchy, and you wouldn't even think twice about it. That was the artistry back then. Now it's like, let's make a song called Wet Ass Pussy and talk about fucking and having a wet pussy. Like, come on, man. There's no artistry in that. Like, that's not art. That's just being obscene for the sake of being obscene.
Yeah, back then it was poetry.
That is poetry. It's poetry. It's poetry about sex. I think it's beautiful. I think it's one of the best songs ever made, not because of the sex, but because it's just an honest song, and it's written so well, and it's so catchy, and that song could be on repeat for the rest of my life. And I love the line too. Don't let the sound of your own wheels drive you crazy. I think that's just a beautiful like
Mhm.
message overall, whether it's about sex or not. I think it's a great, I think it's a great line.
So then when did you start to, you know, think more how you do now, I would say, just like that, having this conscious idea of putting good, being of service to others, doing good in the world, and the universe will be in kind, return in kind. Was that something you always thought, or
It was a
was it?
mix. It was a mix of a few things. One, it was kind of the natural progression to growing up. I mean, and it's I will attest it to the people I've surrounded myself with. You know, like I lived with Mike and the guys for 7 years, and man, we've been through hell and back together, and we've grown and evolved together, and um, you know, we kind of like I don't know who did it first or who started growing up first or what. I mean, Mike will probably take all the credit. He's probably right, but I mean, we kind of all evolved together, honestly, and the podcast was another thing, like a good catalyst of like getting us to just sit and talk shit out. A lot of those early episodes, it's just Mike and I just like talking shit out. And if you look at us talking in 2019, you know, we're way different than we are now, but you could see kind of like the early conversations of like, what's life all about, man? Like, what are we doing? Like, Mike was going through his own change of uh, rebranding from Mike Stud to Mike. Like, he was no longer Mike Stud anymore. Like, we're not the college, like, frat rap kids that party and get fucked up every night. Like, we're getting older. We're 30. We're starting to see things a little differently. We're appreciating other things in life, and the podcast was a great way of kind of I don't know, just kind of getting it out there, getting our thoughts out there. It was therapy in a way, you know. Like Mike and I had therapy every week, and that was the podcast. That was pretty much it. And and then for me too, journaling was a big thing. I journaled starting in 2015 just to like write down all the crazy stories that were happening because we were just too drunk to remember them all. And I one day wanted to have like a crazy book filled with all my crazy stories. But what it ended up happening was as started journaling for 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, I could like, it was kind of just like the story of my life just before my very eyes. And I could kind of like see my life on paper and see the type of the guy I am on paper. And, you know, I would read back things like from 2 years before and I'd be like, man, I was like kind of a shithead back then. Like, I can't believe I thought that way. And I could see myself growing up like with every word of every page of my journal. And that was a cool way of seeing it kind of from like a bird's eye view. So it's kind of like a lot of things, you know, it's kind of all of those uh, kind of put together. And, you know, the older we got, the wiser we got, and the more we could rationalize things. And like I told you, like we live life in the fast lane for such a long period of time. At some point, you burn out and you look back and you think like, you know, this isn't really how I want to live my life anymore. I'm destroying my mind and my body. And yeah, we're having a good time and we're seeing a lot of success, but you know, what do we have to show for it? You know, we're unhealthy. We look like shit. Uh, you know, we drank enough for 10 lifetimes. Like what's the point of it all? Like, why are we doing it? So it's kind of a collaboration of all those things.
And was it tough to look back at some of those old journals and kind of
No, it's great.
look at?
It's highly entertaining.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, I was reading a story the other day of when I went to the Playboy Mansion, and it's just straight comedy. You know, it's you know, there's nothing wrong with being young and reckless. Like I'm not saying like if you're 24 and you have like an urge to go party and have fun, like yeah, go do it. Of course, like you're only
Yeah.
young once. Like if you have an urge to do something, fucking follow that instinct and go for it. Because one of these days you're going to be responsible for more people than yourself, and you're not going to be able to follow your instincts and do those things. So do them while you're young. You know, get it all out of your system. Um, but yeah, it's you know, you read those stories and like I of course I laugh and I think of them fondly. I think they're great memories. But at the same time, I look back and think, man, like I am so glad I don't think that way anymore. And I look back at those stories now like a lot differently, and the way I was recounting them as they were happening, it was kind of like a little self-indulgent in ways. And now I look back at it and think like, oh, I had some crazy times, and I'm glad I don't think that way anymore.
Is the Playboy Mansion story something you can share?
It's I mean, I'll leave some details out, but it was cool, man. Like I got a gig as a videographer. One of my buddies, a friend of a friend, started like a sports what is it? Like a fantasy sports company,
Like a
like a
daily, like a FanDuel or something like that.
yeah,
DraftKings.
it wasn't FanDuel or DraftKings, but it was
Yeah,
something like
something like
similar.
that.
And
Yeah.
this was probably like 2015 or something like that. And it was a friend of a friend who was he was throwing like a corporate party at the Playboy Mansion. Like you can rent out like the whole backyard of the Playboy Mansion and like throw events there. And he threw an event there and he asked if I wanted to be the videographer and recap the event. And I was like, yeah. And he's going to pay me. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, I'm getting
Yeah.
paid to go to the Playboy Mansion. So it was, there's probably like 50 or 60 guys that showed up that was like part of either the company or I think they were doing like some bracket or some contest there. And uh, they did some contest to like, be part of the bracket or whatever the contest was. There was like 50 guys there. And then Playboy has this thing where like they have like a Rolodex of girls that will just like go there to party and like they get paid like $100 just to like go there and show up and party. And that's like part of like the party budget is like we're gonna have 200 girls there that are just like smoke shows, and it's gonna cost X amount of dollars. And I don't know how the Playboy Mansion does it. I think they just leverage their brand, I guess, because it's Playboy and it's the Playboy Mansion. And for whatever reason, there was just 200 smoking hot girls there. And like 50 nerdy sports dudes, and then I'm filming, and I asked if like Mike and the boys could come, and they were like, yeah, of course. So like Mike was there, and like a couple of the other guys were there. And I just remember like we're playing beer pong. Like we're playing beer pong on the lawn of the Playboy Mansion. I'm like, what the fuck is even life right now? Like what's happening? And for the most part, we all behaved like nothing, wild happened. I steered off and did some things that I can't mention on this podcast that will be in my book one day, maybe. But it's dude, it's those days when I say living life in the fast lane. Like things like that would pop up and happen all the time. Where like we weren't famous by any means necessarily. Like we were known, but we weren't famous on like an A-level scale. But still found myself in these like wild situations and have all these wild stories from over the years that again I look back at fondly. But I'm so glad that I've moved on from that stage of my life, because I just you get old and you just get tired. You're just like I want to take a nap. People ask me to go out to the bar now. I'm like I just want to lay down and watch Yellowstone. I'm tired.
Yeah, it's 9:30. It's my bedtime now.
Exactly, man. Yeah, natural progression of life. Like we just need our rest now.
Yeah, exactly. I just
Yeah.
turned 31. So I'm
Yeah,
on
you
that
get it.
progression now. I feel it.
Yeah. Yeah, I have the most life energy I've ever had because I drink a lot less, I eat a lot more healthy, I have tons of life energy. I love what I do. I wake up excited every day. But with that being said, by the end of the day, I'm ready to shut it down.
So what does a typical day look like for you at this point?
Man, I'm working on a lot of exciting things now. Obviously, been riding with Mike strongly for the past 12 years, and it's never been busier on that home front. Mike empowers me and trusts me with a lot of things, which I'm very grateful for. And I wear a lot of hats within that camp of just managing a lot of the media and the podcast and the Only Steve subscription model, and just a lot of stuff under his umbrella. Which I love doing, and it's something that I'm gonna do till the fucking wheels fall off, and he doesn't want to make music anymore. I'm in it for the long run. So a lot of my day goes towards that, and then he and I are actually partnering on this new company that I'm very excited about, which kind of follows along that subscription only Steve's model that we've had for the past 2.5 years. Mike was kind of one of the first artists, ever to kind of do that subscription model, and kind of put out exclusive content and exclusive podcasts underneath just like a paywall and like a subscription platform, which in the music industry, it hasn't really existed much. Not a lot of people have done it. And now that it's starting to become more fashionable to be an independent artist and to monetize yourself as an independent artist, we're very excited to launch this new platform that we've been working on. We partnered with these guys, and it's really about making a platform that's perfect for independent musicians to monetize yourself, or just to create a community and connect with your fans. And we're in the process of kind of switching over to that right now and launching that publicly in the next couple weeks. But that's been like a huge blessing to be a part of such like a grand idea that's, way bigger than ourselves that can help so many young independent artists, and that which I know it will. And that's kind of been keeping me very busy as of late, just kind of getting that platform ready and helping them develop it and making it the best it can be. And uh, you know, getting our Only Steve's business on there as well. And it's been really cool to seeing that come to fruition, and that's going to be coming out publicly in the next couple weeks.
Awesome, man. Can't wait to look forward to it.
Yeah.
Um, is it just for musicians only? Because I remember
No, I mean
hearing back
it's
on. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's it can be used for any creator.
Yeah.
I think right now the niche starting out, it's going to be kind of going towards helping musicians. That's the niche we're kind of going after right now. But um it really is perfect for any creator trying to, with any following whatsoever, whether it's 100 people or 10,000 people. It's just a way to get all your top fans on one platform, whether it's for free or whether it's for a subscription or whether it's for uh certain upsells on certain pieces of media. You could really make it whatever you want to be. And it's literally the best way to connect with your top fans.
Yeah, I've listened to you guys talk about it, just a little bit on the YNK podcast of just the idea that you guys are building it out. Where did you guys come up with, not necessarily the idea, but when did you guys really start to realize that like this membership model is like the move forward, and
Well,
like we're the ones to build something for it?
yeah, I mean, it was, Mike will tell you a whole story, which I'm not going to get into, on why he wanted to start the subscription model. But again, divine timing. During the time Mike was kind of like pondering that idea of even trying it out, we got contacted through like a friend of a friend with this company Famigo, which is the platform that we're on right now. And they contacted us about 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago, to because they were making a platform kind of similar to like a Patreon or like a OnlyFans, but just a way to like basically monetize content. And we Mike was super into the idea, and we were one of their first creators to hop on the platform. And they were in their very like their infancy stages, and we kind of built with them. And over the course of 3 years, we built a business model that we didn't even know could exist for a musician. And Mike's kind of a unicorn in that sense, where he's one of the larger independent musicians. But over the years, we found that musician, like any musician of any size, can use this business model, or any creator of any size can use this business model. And we were at the point where we've been doing it for so long, and Mike was kind of the pioneer in that business model for musicians, where we kind of wanted to start our own thing and kind of make it more geared towards like the perfect platform for musicians or creators to like to really have every feature possible, every feature imaginable, where you don't have to have five different services or like have five different things as a creator. You can just have a one-stop shop. This is the best way to connect with your fans, and these are all the tools that you'll ever need to grow your business. And that's what we're trying to do. And we were lucky enough to partner with this new company who, again, one of the co-founders is a longtime friend of mine that I've known for 12 years. And he ran a big music blog back in the day. And funny enough, coincidentally, that's how I discovered Mike, was off his music blog. And now full circle, 12 years later, he's the co-founder of this new platform. And, they wanted Mike and I to get involved and be like a big piece of the company and the face of it, and kind of use what we learned over the past 2.5 years and help apply it to other artists. And it's never been a better time to be an independent artist. And there's more and more every day. And now we're in a position where we can be in this place of experience from the past 10, 12 years of doing the independent thing, and a place of experience where we've done this independent subscription model, community-based model for the past 2, 3 years, where we can now help so many young artists do the same thing. And that's why we're doing it. And we're really excited to get started.
Fucking amazing, man. Amazing. It's the same exact story as you were talking about with the idea of the podcast is 10 to 12, but now it's 10 to 12 years of doing everything that you guys have done over the past 10 to 12 years to allow you to step into this position and execute in a way that really nobody else can, because you have just built this natural skill set over this extended length of time.
Yeah, and dude, again, like I said before, I didn't seek this out. I didn't seek out like, oh, I want to start a music tech company with my friends and like help art. Like, no, I was just doing what I was doing, and like this opportunity kind of literally came out of thin air. but it was through a guy that I had been friends with for a very long time that like loves working and helping musicians as much as I do. And he just happened to be a co-founder of this company that was just starting out. And he knew the value Mike and I could bring. And it just kind of all came together full circle. And it's just one of those things where like the relationship started 12 years ago and it led to this thing 12 years later. Would have never guessed that would have happened. But like, here we are. It's just because like he was a good guy, I was a good guy, and we just kind of did great business together over the years here and there. And it just kind of worked out, and our worlds kind of collided yet again.
Incredible, man. Wish you guys best of luck with that.
Thank you.
My final question is, what is your why? Why do you do what you do?
I think it was Will Smith that said this once. Will Smith said his purpose was being useful to other people. And he said like if you're not useful to other people, then it's hard to like wake up and feel purpose each day. And that can come in all different shapes and sizes, being useful to people. And I think that's just being of service. It's a easier way of saying just being of service to someone, but being useful to someone is a beautiful thing, and lightening someone's burden is a beautiful thing. And I think the more people you can do that for, the more you wake up every day excited, because you're like I'm literally like making someone's life better, like in some way or another. And over the years, like that's been getting bigger and bigger for me, like especially like when we start doing the podcast and we get reached out, and people saying like I followed you guys' story and like I really connect with it and it's really helped me out through some dark times. Like, great, I've been of service to people like by just making a podcast. That's a beautiful thing. I get to work with my friends every day. I get to work with Mike every day, and I get to be of service to him. I get to like lighten his burdens, and whatever he needs, I can do for him, and we can grow like a company organically together. That's a beautiful thing. I I started volunteering at the animal shelter down the street from my house twice a week, just because I like being of service to animals, because I love dogs. So I wake up excited every day to like go to the animal shelter and like take dogs out to basically just go take a shit and pick their poop up. But like I'm being of service to them, and I truly love doing it. So when you ask me my why, it's like I get to do what I'm passionate about, what I love, whether it's music or videos or starting small businesses or helping musicians or hanging out with a dog. I get to do those things, and it's beneficial to those people, and it's helping people. And I think that's truly the meaning of life, is when you take your purpose and you apply it to helping other people. That's what that's what happiness is. That's my why.
Beautiful, beautiful way to put it. And I do the
Yeah.
same thing. I go tomorrow morning, walk a few dogs, let them take a shit, and let them back in.
Yeah. You just made that dog's day. He made the dog's day. He made that dog's day.
Yeah. Then I love the idea of lighten somebody's burden, helping people out. I think that's a beautiful idea, a beautiful way to phrase it. And so, John, I really appreciate your time, man. This was really fun, really insightful conversation. Had a lot of fun. If people want to reach out to you and just say what's up or say that they enjoyed the pod, where's the best place to reach you at?
Yeah, you can just find me on Instagram at Jon Kilmer. That's no H, JonKilmer. And the quote I was looking for, I just looked it up on Google. It's by Charles Dickens. He said, "No one is useless in this world who lightens the burdens of another." And I live by
Mm,
that quote. I want to plaster it against my wall because I think it's very true. And Charles Dickens was a wise man.
very wise man. Very well said. Appreciate your time, John.
Thanks for having me, brother.